December 4th, 2024, 6:44 in the morning. A man walks out of a hotel in Midtown Manhattan. He's dressed for a conference. He's got a coffee cup. He's got somewhere to be. 2 shots. He falls. He dies on the sidewalk while the city wakes up around him. His name was Brian Thompson. He was the CEO of UnitedHealthcare, the largest health insurance company in America. And within hours of his death, something happened that America's media couldn't explain and couldn't look away from. People cheered, not quietly, not in whispers, loudly, publicly, in comment sections, in posts, in memes. Millions of people saw a man murdered in cold blood, and their first reaction was relief. I want you to sit with that for a second, because that reaction doesn't come from nowhere. Let's start with the company. And I need you to understand the scale here because big numbers are easy to let wash over you. UnitedHealthcare is not just a large health insurer. It is the largest company in America by one measure that actually matters. It touches more lives than almost any corporation on earth. $400 billion. That number is almost impossible to hold in your head. It is larger than the GDP of Denmark, larger than the GDP of South Africa. It is a country-sized enterprise, and what it sells is access to your own medical care. Because that's what $400 billion buys. Not hospitals, not doctors. Control over whether your cancer treatment gets approved, whether your elderly parent stays in rehab or goes home, whether your surgery is medically necessary, their words, their call, their timeline, not your doctors. If you have private insurance right now, there is a meaningful chance UnitedHealthcare is the company standing between you and your doctor's orders. Sitting in the middle of that conversation, invisible, with veto power. Brian Thompson ran the insurance division of this empire. In 2023, he made $10.2 million. Hold that number. We're coming back to it. Here is what I need you to understand before we go any further. This video is not about whether Brian Thompson was a good or bad man. That is not the question. The question is what the company he ran was doing, and whether anyone, anywhere was trying to stop it. Because at the same time Brian Thompson was earning $10 million a year, UnitedHealthcare was quietly deploying something that would fundamentally change how your medical care gets decided. Not a doctor, not a nurse, not a human being of any kind. An algorithm. In 2020, UnitedHealth Group paid $2.5 billion for a company called NaviHealth. NaviHealth had built something called NH-Predict, a predictive AI tool designed to estimate how long patients recovering from surgery or illness would need post-acute care, skilled nursing facilities, rehabilitation centers, home health. On paper, it sounds almost reasonable. Smarter allocation, better outcomes, data-driven medicine, the kind of thing that gets a standing ovation at a healthcare conference. Here is what it actually did. The AI was trained on 6 million patient records. It would analyze your case, your age, your diagnosis, your procedure, and produce a number. A predicted length of stay, and then NaviHealth instructed its case managers, the humans who were supposed to be advocating for your care, to keep your actual stay within 1% of whatever the algorithm said. 1%. Not a guideline, not a starting point for a conversation. A hard ceiling. If the algorithm said your father should be out of rehab in 12 days, your case manager had 12 days to work with. Didn't matter what his doctor said. Didn't matter what the nurses saw. The algorithm said 12. 12 it is. Now, you might expect there's at least a reasonable margin of error here. Medicine is complex. Maybe the AI was mostly right. It was not. Here's the part that should make your jaw drop. The lawsuit, filed in federal court, on the record, says NH-Predict had a 90% error rate. 90%. 9 out of 10 times the algorithm predicted when a patient should be discharged, it was wrong. Wrong by clinical standards. Wrong in ways doctors had already flagged. Wrong in ways that harmed real people. And UnitedHealthcare kept using it anyway. Let me put a face on what this looks like when it goes wrong. Gene Locken was 91 years old. He lived in Wisconsin. In May of 2022, he fractured his leg and his ankle. His doctor ordered physical therapy, standard recovery protocol for a man his age, with those injuries. UnitedHealthcare denied it. The algorithm said no. Gene Locken died. Knut Tetzlaff was 74 years old. He had a stroke. His doctor said he needed 100 days of skilled nursing care to recover. The algorithm gave him 20. His family tried to fight it. They paid $70,000 out of pocket to keep him in care. It didn't matter. Knut Tetzlaff died on October 11, 2022. 3 men, 3 families, 3 deaths. Because an algorithm that the company's own lawsuit says was wrong 90% of the time was given the power to override the doctors. And now, the question that should stop you cold. If you knew your AI had a 90% error rate, and you kept using it anyway, what does that tell you about why you were actually using it? Because here is the other number. When UnitedHealthcare deployed NH Predict at scale, their post-acute care denial rate went from 8.7% in 2020 to 22.7% in 2022. Skilled nursing facility denials went up 900% in 3 years. And of all the patients who were wrongly denied, only 0.2% ever appealed. Not 2%. Not 20%. 0.2%. 2 people out of every 1,000. You know why? Because the appeals process is designed to break you. You're sick. Your family is terrified. The paperwork is a labyrinth. The deadlines are short. The phone hold times are long. Most people give up, not because they've lost, but because they're exhausted and scared and don't have a lawyer on retainer. And that's not a design flaw. That is the design. Let's talk about the money. Because this is where the story stops being about a broken algorithm and becomes about a deliberate choice. UnitedHealthcare denied 33% of all ACA marketplace claims in 2023, 1 in 3. The industry average was roughly half that. No other major insurer came close. That is not a glitch. That is not an edge case. That is a policy. Think about what denial means in practice. You go to your doctor, who went to medical school, who has examined you, who knows your history, says you need a procedure. You submit a claim, and a company that has never met you, has never examined you, reviews it against an algorithm and says no. Not, here's an alternative. Not, let's discuss. Just no. From behind a screen in another state, by someone who will never know your name, and they make money every time they say no. That's the part nobody says out loud enough. Your premium is fixed. You pay it every month no matter what. Every dollar they don't spend on your care is a dollar that stays inside the machine. That becomes their revenue. That becomes their profit. That becomes Brian Thompson's $10.2 million paycheck. There it is. That's the math. This is the economics the insurance industry does not want you to look at directly. Because once you see it clearly, you can't unsee it. Every denial is revenue. Every delay is leverage. Every appeal they exhaust is a claim they don't pay. The cruelty isn't incidental to the business model. In a very real sense, it is the business model. There's a book written in 2010 called Delay, Deny, Defend. It documented exactly how insurance companies use delay, denial, and legal attrition as profit strategies. The shell casings found at the scene of Brian Thompson's murder were inscribed with 3 words: deny, delay, depose. Whoever pulled that trigger had done their homework. In October 2023, more than a year before the shooting, the Senate Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations released a report slamming UnitedHealthcare, Humana, and CVS for using AI to deny Medicare Advantage claims to elderly patients. The companies acknowledged the findings. They promised to review their practices. The algorithm kept running. The Department of Justice opened at least 2 investigations into UnitedHealth Group. One for antitrust violations, how it was buying up doctors' offices through its Optum subsidiary. One for Medicare billing fraud, allegedly inflating diagnosis codes to collect higher payments from the government. And then came December 4th. Luigi Mangione was 26 years old, Ivy League graduate, upper middle class. Not the profile anyone expected. He was arrested 5 days later in Altoona, Pennsylvania. In a backpack, investigators found a handwritten document, a manifesto of sorts, describing the health insurance industry as one that extracts human life force for money. He cited UnitedHealthcare specifically. Within days, 27% of Americans told pollsters they sympathized with Mangione. 12% said they supported the killing. A crowdfunding campaign for his legal defense raised over $400,000. 80% of his sympathizers cited systemic injustices as their reason. That number, 27%, is not a small, fringe reaction. That is tens of millions of people looking at a murder and saying, I understand why. In February 2025, Andrew Whitty, the CEO of UnitedHealth Group, stepped down. The company announced his departure as a retirement. He had been in the role for less than 3 years, and in March 2026, a federal judge ordered UnitedHealthcare to hand over all internal NH-Predict documents going back to January 2017. The algorithm, the internal communications, every email, every memo, every record of what they knew and when they knew it. For the first time, the machine will have to be seen, not in a Senate hearing, not in a press release, in a courtroom under oath in front of a judge with the families of Gene Locken and Knut Tetzlaff watching. Here is where we are right now. The algorithm is still running. The denial rate is still among the highest in the industry. The $400 billion machine is still in operation. Brian Thompson is dead. The man accused of killing him awaits trial. And the system that produced the conditions for all of it, the denials, the algorithm, the $22 billion in profit, has not fundamentally changed. But here is what you can do. Right now. Today. And I want you to actually hear this part. If you receive a denial from any health insurer, you have the legal right to appeal. Every plan. Every state. You can request an internal appeal within your insurer. If that fails, you can request an external independent review. By a reviewer, your insurer doesn't employ and can't pressure. Only 0.2% of people ever appeal. That gap, between the people who fight and the people who give up, is not an accident. It is the business model. Close it. Document everything. Get the denial reason in writing. Have your doctor write a letter of medical necessity. Those 3 steps alone dramatically change your odds. The system counts on you not knowing that. The class action lawsuit is proceeding. The DOJ investigations are active. The algorithm is finally being forced into the open. The story is not over. If this video made you feel something, share it. Not because the view count matters, because someone you know is probably one denial letter away from being Gene Locken, being Knut Tetzlaff, being someone who dies quietly in a house or a nursing home, while the algorithm moves on to the next case like nothing happened. They deserve to know the system they're inside. Subscribe to The Blind Spot. This is what we do. Take the things happening in plain sight that nobody wants to say plainly. We'll see you in the next one. Everything in this video is based on public reporting, court documents, Senate testimony, and investigative journalism from ProPublica, Stat News, PBS, and CNBC. This channel does not condone violence of any kind. The goal here is to tell a true story clearly, because clarity is what accountability requires. Subscribe to The Blind Spot. New documentary every week. The story's hiding in plain sight. Hit the bell so you don't miss the next one.